Janine, welcome to Digital Transformation Bite Size. This is a video series where I talk to thought leaders about digital transformation, intelligent automation, and data analytics. Welcome. How are you today?
Perfect. Thank you. I'm very well. And first of all, it's a pleasure to join you this morning. So thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So could you tell us a little bit about who you are and what do you do so that everybody's aware before we get into the questions proper?
Yes, of course. I'll do my best. So my name is Janine Gill. I'm a client director at a company, an intelligent automation company called Cortex. But a bit about me is I'm Portsmouth born and bred, a horse lover enthusiast. And I fell into the world of automation, pardon the pun, about 10 years ago, looking at organisational design, improvement and efficiencies, and how we optimise that through businesses to drive change.
What excited you about moving from horsepower to digital horsepower?
It's it's a great story because I've ridden and worked with horses since I was very, very young.
Up to
Started riding
Olympic level, by the way,
it,
Olympic and
I
worlds.
I did, yes, grew up to that level and looked after some very, very smart horses in my time. So I've been very, very lucky. And I guess it sort of came about as we always do. We had an accident. I broke some ribs and an elbow, and had some time to reevaluate and look at what it was I wanted to do. And I was getting older. The winters were getting longer, and I was getting less tolerant of being cold. So I went back to college and university mid to late 20s, so a little while ago, and looked and studied international business management.
Wow. And what excites you about the digital transformation space?
So I sort of said I fell into it. I kind of did, but I guess it's the excitement and the drive of change that keeps me here. So part of my degree was looking at cross-cultural and organisational change and development. And that led into looking at process. So how do we drive change through business? And looking at process, moving from as is to be environments, led me to identify areas for automation to really drive that change. And that was one of the things that excited me the most was how much change we could identify. Now, implementing it is another story, and I'm sure we'll get onto that. But the fact that I get the opportunity to work with so many different types of organizations, so anything from a blue chip organization to a startup in both the public and private sector, gives me a whole breadth of vision and understanding. And I can use that learning in different environments. So I think it's all about, for me, the excitement is the variety that I get to see and the types of people I get to work with.
Gosh, every day sounds like a good day. Well, why are the organizations you're dealing with digitally transforming?
So it's the age old question, isn't it? An answer. If we stop and if we stand still, we're going to get swallowed up by our competitors. So having that ability to change, to transform, to move into bigger markets or to be more successful at what we're doing right now is really important. And I think increasingly important because I think the driver to do this has become faster. We live in a world now where we want everything now, and that is transforming and reflecting in a business environment. We want the same abilities that we have at home with devices, the way we can speak to people and operate in our organizations. And with that comes transformation, whether that's from an IT perspective, a business need. We need to constantly adapt and change to meet those demands of our ever-changing workforce.
What technologies excite you the most then?
So at the moment, specifically in the space that we operate, our world of automation, RPA, intelligent automation, I think there's a great lot of tech coming out around the discovery piece. So process mining is really hot on the agenda at the moment. What that helps our organizations and businesses to do is identify those areas that are best suited for automation and also the type of automation. I know you and I have been talking a lot about kit bags recently. It isn't one size fits all. So, let's have a look. Let's identify those different areas of automation opportunity and make sure that we've got the right tool to manage those. And therefore that should increase success for our organizations. So I'm really excited, and maybe that's my nature, about the discovery piece. Make sure we're doing the right thing with the right tool to drive the right outcome.
Yeah, I always sort of say, if you discover at the beginning, if you select the right processes to automate and digitize, then everything else falls into place. And if you select the wrong processes, it just feels like a really hard journey that's probably doomed to failure.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. No digital or business transformation journey, whatever it includes, is easy. There's lots of stakeholders we need to bring on board, but absolutely, if we are identifying, the best fit, also for the business as well. So what's right for our businesses, then I think we've got a greater chance of a successful outcome. So that for me, helping early on around that discovery piece is exciting. And bringing people together, stakeholders, people with the pain, leaders within the business, I think also helps to drive that success.
Where do you see the digital transformation industry moving or going?
So this is quite interesting, because I think everyone would love a crystal ball and say we are heading in the right direction. I think there's lots of change and speed of change as well. So we have, as organizations and the types of organizations I work with, built a great foundation on RPA, and it's driven value through businesses quite quickly. Not always been plain sailing, but there is value to be had there. I think the next level of change and where we go to is bringing in some of the cognitive abilities of what we can do now with tech. I'm always hesitant, and it alludes back to your question or your reference before. The tech is exciting and it can achieve a lot, but it isn't always about that. And I always harper on to, it's the methodologies, the approaches, and the people that we need to work with. So it's not just about technology. We've also got to look at processes and people.
What are the challenges to get great automation programs up and running and then delivering?
Where I see and worked on numerous projects of all shapes and sizes, that the biggest challenge is again, and this is why I'm so passionate about the discovery up front, is really having identified the right process, and then moving through and working with the right people within your organization. So it's not just one group of champions. There are other players within the organization that will be impacted by the change and the transformation. So we've got to look end to end at how this happens. So we may be fixing a problem right now here in this space. That's fantastic. But don't forget to look at the knock-on effect. So how is that affecting people upstream? Are we making the fallout greater, which we're trying not to do? So I would suggest identify your end-to-end and where the impacts are, and bring those key stakeholders and sponsors with you on the journey. That will give you a greater success. And then when you go into delivery, you've got those champions and stakeholders that you need on board with you, which should make the delivery easier and more successful.
What are you trying to do to get those folks engaged and involved, though? Because it's not as if people just sign up straight away on the digital transformation dotted line.
No, exactly. Everyone, within a business has their own agendas as well, and their own pains. Everyone's going through different experiences internally within an organization within that process. So I think one of the things is awareness. So, be vocal, say that, this is a challenge for me. And it's about sharing, and I harp on about communication all the time. It's a really easy thing to say you do. It's not so easy to actually do it. So I think communication, sharing those challenges that you're having, and ideas as to how to overcome with every element, not just the business, but the IT and the stakeholders, so that you're bringing everybody on that journey with you.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely essential. I think people forget it. I often see as well that people do the work up front, and then the project starts to deliver, and then they forget to communicate the value. Or even worse still, the project stops delivering and then people stop communicating. Never an easy circumstance to be in. Is there a balance between delivering and discovering?
So there always has to, or there should be that balance, shouldn't there, really, within our businesses? It's and that's the key. I think one area, and you mentioned there about the challenges and the pressures, an area within the business that is becoming increasingly important is around the CFO function. So yes, people are going to want to see results. They're going to want to see them quickly, so that at the end result is its impact on the bottom line, right? We're increasing revenues, and making our businesses more successful. So I think having the CFO, a key level C-level executive on board, so that you can articulate that it's not going to happen overnight. This is a journey. It's not a deployment of a piece of tech that is going to take all of our pains and challenges away. It doesn't work like that. So I think, yes, there is going to be pressure, but with every project there's pressure. People want to see results. If they didn't, then we wouldn't be striving for change. So it's important to recognize, but maybe look outside the box at other stakeholders that you can bring on board and take on that journey with you. Because I think if you have the backing there as well, it may alleviate the pressure when sometimes it could get a bit much.
If you had a dream project to work on, what would it look like?
So there's quite a few actually that I could reference in my past that I've enjoyed working on. But I think a dream project for me, they all have one similarity, and that is making a difference, and having visibility of that difference. Now, whether that's to the employees on a daily basis, so we've removed an element of their work that really got them down and wasn't great for their well-being, or if it's really sort of driving a change. There's one project that springs to mind that I delivered and we are currently working on, where a European government organisation needed to process payments faster so that foster parents could claim money for outgoings that they'd spent. Now, automation played a key part in that, and it actually made a difference to people's lives, because we all know what it's like. If you've had an outgoing financially, you need that returned, and quickly, because it needs to be utilized elsewhere. We don't have surplus cash. So I think there's projects that really deliver back into society that I've been involved with, definitely making a difference from a people and person perspective. So I think my dream project would be to encompass those and drive change. And I make it sound like it's sort of all glory and happy. In an ideal world, it would be. But I think making a difference for me, out into the public and the wider community, which we can do through automation, would be ideal for me.
Yeah, I really like the sound of that, because most times when we're talking about automation, not that banks aren't exciting in places, and insurance companies and wealth companies and whatever else aren't great, but we don't really talk about, the really nice part of where automation does, make a difference genuinely to people or to employees or to customers or to processes. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. We always talk about, how we automated for, a large, like you said, financial services company, banks, or, insurance company, or big tech, made a difference. We forget about the smaller things. I'm passionate about making automation accessible for everybody. You don't have to be a giant blue chip organization to achieve results, and you shouldn't be. We can deliver value right down to the bottom line. And if that's out into a community, around payments, to make sure that they've got money that they've invested back, to live and be happy, then for me, that's essential. That's what we should be doing.
But I wish you and Cortex every success. And look, thank you so much for joining us at Digital Transformation Bite Size. It was a pleasure to have you here. We'll get this out to the public. And if anybody wants to connect to Janine, please find her on LinkedIn. Whereabouts else can they find you, Janine?
Oh, LinkedIn, YouTube, cortex-ai.co.uk as well.
Fantastic. Look, be safe, be well, and thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you for having me, Kieran. All the best.